everyone, how are you all doing? Now today we have got my official 2023-2024 Championship predictions. So we're going to go from 24th place all the way up to 1st and we'll see where I have ranked teams. And although I'm not too confident with them, I think some of them I can get correct. And so we'll see by the end of the season. So starting off in 24th place then, I have got newly promoted through the playoffs, Sheffield Wednesday. And they've brought in Xisco Munoz, and you know, I do think he's a good manager, but just the way in which Sheffield Wednesday have gone through their transfer business so far this season, I'm not too confident with them. You know, they've brought in the likes of Ashley Fletcher and Reece James, but I just don't really see a way for Sheffield Wednesday to stay up this season, and as much as I hate to say it, I think they'll be relegated. In 23rd then, I have got Queen's Park Rangers. It was a good first half of the season under Michael Beale, but after that, you know, just the fall, it really didn't help them under Neil Critchley and Gareth Ainsworth. And although they've signed the likes of Jack Colback, I just can't see them staying up this season. 22nd place was a bit difficult for me, but I've gone with Plymouth Argyle. I think that they have got some great players, such as Ballymumba, but you know, I'm just thinking back to when Peterborough came into the league a couple of seasons ago. They finished 22nd and people didn't really know where to put them. I do feel that Plymouth can stay up, but I'm just going to put them 22nd. So in 21st place, I have got the Bluebirds Cardiff City, our first Welsh side to appear in this. And I think, well, I mean, Cardiff will be around the relegation zone, won't they? You know, with the troubles off the pitch, you know, they've got to get that sorted. They have signed Aaron Ramsey, though. Good player. Carlin Grant wasn't so good at West Brom, but hopefully it's a good loan spell for him. Go back to his Huddersfield days when he was doing really well. So I do think that they do have potential there, but I'm going to put them 21st and just staying up. In 20th place, I have got Huddersfield Town. And I think it will be another season for them where they are just fighting relegation, but I do think they'll stay up. I do think that Neil Warnock will be sacked though, and they will have a different manager come the end of the season. But I think Huddersfield 20th, I think that is a fair prediction. In 19th place then, I've got Rotherham United, and I do think they will stay up again this season. You know, they've signed the likes of Cafu from Nottingham Forest, Dylan Phillips from Cardiff, good goalkeeper on his day, Fred Onyedinma on loan from Luton. I mean, good signings. Grant Hall from Middlesbrough. You know, Rotherham in this transfer window, I think, have done really well, and I do think that they will stay up. And whether they'll stay up comfortably, I'm not too sure, but they will stay up, and I think that's always a positive for Rotherham. In 18th place, I have got Hull City, and this is one which I am quite unsure on, because Hull do have good players, but it's just whether they can utilise them correctly. And I think last season was decent for Hull, but I think this season, just going off some of the transfers which they have done, I'm just not too sure on them at the moment, and we'll see how they do. In 17th then, I think this could maybe cause a little bit of discussion around the Blues fans who follow my channel, and I know there's a lot of you. I've got a 17th place. I don't want to get too excited straight away, you know, and this would be an alright season for us. We have got the players, but it's just whether we can keep up an exciting momentum throughout the whole season, which, you know, we will have parts where we find it difficult. But I think we've got to be realistic as well as excited. 17th place, I think, for us would still be a decent season, you know. It's not relegation, is it? And although, you know, we have gone about with the Chinese and, you know, stayed up, it would just be Birmingham City to go down this season, wouldn't it? But I don't think we will. I think we'll get 17th, but I will certainly take higher. But I'm just trying to play it a bit safe. In 16th place then, I have got Bristol City, and I think I might be being a bit harsh here, to be honest, for Bristol City. They have signed good players such as Jason Knight, Rob Dickey, Hayden Roberts, just looking at the list now. They are all good players, and so I think it will just be one of those seasons for Bristol. You know, you don't ever really know where to put them, a bit like some of the other teams around, because they can have a decent looking squad, but it's just whether they conform to the expectations. But I think 16th for Bristol City. In 15th place then, I've got another Midlands club, West Bromwich Albion. And the reason I've done this is because first of all, off the pitch, they've got to get their issues sorted, you know. I mean, it's just not going well for them, and hopefully they do get, you know, what they deserve soon, you know, a nice takeover, get some money in, and try and get back to the Premier League. But with all of the stuff going off the pitch, as well as some of the pre-season results which they've had, and they've had quite a few poor results against lower league sides, I think that will just drop the confidence a little bit, and I think West Brom will finish in the bottom half of the table. In 14th place then I've got Preston North End, and overall not many of their transfers have really excited me, you know. They've got youngsters from Liverpool who have come in, and they've got players like Dwayne Holmes and Will Keane. But apart from that, you know, they have lost Daniel Johnson, who has been a big player for them in recent seasons. And so, yeah, I'm not too sure on Preston. I guess we'll see by the end of the season how they do, but I think they'll be 14th. 13th place then I've got Preston North End's Lancashire rivals, Blackburn Rovers. And I think the big one which we take a look at is Ben Brereton Diaz leaving, and for free as well. You know, poor work by the ownership at Blackburn Rovers. They could have got some good money out of him, but instead they got nothing, and so they can't use any money from that to try and build up the squad. And so this is where it leaves Blackburn in a little bit of a sticky situation. You know, they fell apart nearer to the end of last season, and so I think 13th place for Blackburn, and, you know, mid-table. And so coming right into the middle of the table, 12th place, we have got the other Welsh club, Swansea City, who Birmingham City have on Saturday. I think it will be an interesting season for Swansea, because without Russell Martin anymore, we don't really know how they're going to go about their play. They beat Reading 4-0 in a friendly earlier on, I think it was sometime last week, and that, you know, they did look inspiring then, and players like Joel Perreault, if he can stay, you know, Swansea have got a good chance of maybe trying to fight for the playoffs. But I'm not too sure whether he will. I reckon he could go this summer, or, you know, in January when the transfer window opens. So I'll put Swansea 12th. And so in 11th place, I've got the final team that has been promoted from League One, Ipswich Town. And I am excited for Ipswich this season. You know, they did really well last season in League One, and if it wasn't for Plymouth being also really good, they would have won the league comfortably. But instead they finished second place. But I do feel the hope and excitement around Ipswich, and I do think that Portman Road, when it's, you know, on a cold Tuesday night, or whether it's on a Saturday in the August sun, I do think it will be a tough place to go. And, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing what Ipswich can do. In 10th then I have got Watford, and how many managers are Watford going to go through this season? Currently is Valérien Ismaël, but he probably won't be the manager by the end of this season. And to be fair, when we look back on this video in May, we'll just see whether, you know, how many managers Watford go through, whether Valérien Ismaël maybe is an anomaly and stays at Watford for the season. But right now I'll have them 10th. You know, parachute payments is starting to fall a little bit now. You know, they've stayed in the Championship for a season. They're not going to get as much money as they would have if they were in the Premier League. And so we'll see what happens. 10th place for Watford. Now, Stoke City are always a tough one to predict, because people put them so high up and usually they fall down. But this season, I'm feeling a little bit of positivity from Stoke. The transfers which they've bought in, you know, they've bought in players like Wesley from Aston Villa. We've got Michael Rose from Coventry, Edna Stevens from Sheffield United. And although they are all, you know, getting to that age where they start to slip in expectations, you know, I do think that this could be a good season for Stoke, although not playoffs, but I do think it will be their highest finish yet since getting relegated from the Championship in 2018. In 8th place then I have gone with Norwich City, and last season was dreadful for them really, wasn't it? You know, they come into the Championship with Dean Smith, high hopes, you know, trying to win the title like usual, and really they just fell apart at the start of the season. They get rid of Dean Smith after a little bit of controversy with the fans and himself, and in comes David Wagner, who, you know, at the start possibly people think, right, okay, you know, they could maybe go on a run here, and still they don't really do that well, and they haven't won in the Championship since the 7th of April, where they beat Blackburn Rovers. So this will certainly be an interesting season for Norwich. They've got to get the recruitment right. Timu Puki, he's not there anymore, so who's really going to provide the goals? I guess we'll see. But 8th place Norwich. In 7th place then, and just missing out on the playoffs, I've got Gary Rowett's Millwall. Millwall last season were a good side to watch. You know, they were exciting, and the Den is always a tough place to go, but they just missed out, losing 4-3 to Blackburn, wasn't it, after being 3-1 up on the last day of the season. And I think it could just be the same type of story again, just missing out on playoffs. And so 6th place, and the first team to get the playoffs is Leeds United. Leeds last season in the Premier League wasn't a good season for them, was it? You know, nothing ever really went their way, and they just didn't ever really look like staying up, really, and they did eventually get relegated. And this season I can see them getting playoffs, and Elland Road is certainly going to be a tough place to go, but I don't think they'll get up. I don't think they'll be promoted. I think there'll be another team in there who are just a bit better than Leeds. 5th place then, I have got Sunderland, and it was a really good season last season for Sunderland, wasn't it? You know, starting off with, you know, the likes of Ellis Sims scoring goals. You know, you're always going to have a good first half of the season, until he did go back to Everton, which was really annoying for Sunderland, but they did manage to get playoffs, and ultimately just lost in the end against Luton Town, who eventually did go on to get promoted. But Sunderland 5th, they won't be promoted, but they will get into the playoffs and have a chance of getting promoted, but I don't think they will be. So in 4th place I have got Middlesbrough, and so this means that if my predictions are correct, we will have Middlesbrough versus Sunderland in the playoff semi-final, which would certainly be interesting to watch. But Middlesbrough 4th, Michael Carrick, he is a really good manager. I really like him. The only issue which I have is that, you know, if another team wants him, you know, in the Premier League, will he go there? I mean, you never know. But I can certainly see him managing Man United in a few seasons' time. But right now, his focus is on Middlesbrough, and we'll see how they do. But 4th place for them, and they won't be promoted either. So in 3rd place, and the team which I've got getting promoted through the playoffs, is Coventry City. We did have the incredible story of Luton Town, you know, managing to get to the Premier League last season. And we can have the incredible story of Coventry City if my prediction is correct. Look, they've got rid of Gyökeres, but they've bought in Sims, you know. I mean, where can you go wrong? There's Ellis Sims really did show his quality in the Championship with Sunderland in the first half of the season while he was there, and then did get a goal for Everton, didn't he, in the Premier League, I think. Can't remember who it was against, though, but Coventry City have certainly got a good side, and they will, hopefully for them, be promoted. And so in 2nd place, I have got Southampton, relegated last season. Certainly not a good season for them. They never really looked alive. You know, James Ward-Prowse, you know, was the exciting talent, as he always is. Whether he will stay at Southampton, though, I'm not too sure. But at the moment, he is still there. And, you know, if he does stay in the Championship, you know, how many goals can he get? You know, I mean, from free kicks alone, he can get into double figures. So it will certainly be interesting to see how well he does if he does stay in the Championship. But to be honest, I'm not sure at the moment. I think he is just too good for the Championship. And, you know, team like West Ham coming in for him and having a bid rejected. They have also got players like Che Adams, who I know from Birmingham. Good player, but we'll see how they do. And so in 1st place then, I've got Leicester City. And I think a lot of people will have predicted Leicester to finish in the automatic spots. Whether 1st place, I'm not too sure, but I certainly think that Leicester will be promoted this season. You know, I mean, signing a player like Connor Cody with experience, you know, he is a good player. You know, defensively he is good, but he can also, you know, score a couple of goals here and there. So, you know, Leicester, if they keep Jamie Vardy as well, you know, that is certainly a good, you know, move for Leicester, you know, to keep him. You know, they will go straight back up if they do, I do think. And so Leicester City first, whether they can stay up if they do go up back to the Premier League, I'm not too sure, but I guess, you know, we'll see. And so there we go. Those are my 2023-2024 Championship predictions. I'm sure someone disagrees out there with me. I'm sure a lot of you do. But this is my personal opinion. And yeah, we'll see what happens. You never know, maybe I'll get them all correct, which I won't, but we'll see. As for the next video, Swansea City away, absolutely can't wait for that. That'll be a brilliant match, and hopefully the first of many wins for Birmingham City this season. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and keep right on, everyone.